this age groups, basically the under-13s below, our main priority is the technical development. We focus a lot on 1v1s and either in attack and in defense. Obviously, this is a team game, so we try to pass some ideas about the understanding of the game, but that is a consequence on the development of the player. So basically we want to create players that know how to play in a team, not creating teams. So that's the biggest difference. That's why all of our practice sessions are demanding 1v1, always with the ball, and in all our sessions we try to make them play in different positions. They all play different positions. We create specific weeks, like for example this one, where the players are only allowed to use their weaker foot. So it's, well, we try to challenge them during the whole practices. We also send them homework, where it's basically ball relation exercises, juggling, doing moves, and that's a typical week, and that's our main goals here at Braga. I also do some technical work with the players, individual, in all the youth teams. Basically, the main idea is trying to target a specific group of players. We call it, there is no translation for this, but in English, but basically it's like what we call elite players, or players that might reach the top. I know there are loads of variables that it might not happen, but it's the players that we believe that have all the characteristics that we think that might reach the top. So basically those players will have extra training, especially the ones that are semi-professionals or after school. And that extra training, basically it's to improve what they have bad, that they really need to improve, and try to enhance what they are good at. So basically, if you are an under-19, if you play in the channels, and if you are good crossing, we will try to make you even better. If you have a bad, weaker foot, we try to develop that. If we are talking about these age groups, obviously the approach is much more general. You try to improve ball relation, then passing, receiving. It's basically trying to follow a little bit the patterns or the guidelines from Corver. That's the kind of work we do. About the importance of that individual training, there is a study that says that the 10,000 hours, we all might discuss that, but the truth is we all believe that the practicing improves your quality, and the more you practice, the better. Nowadays the players, the kids, especially the kids, don't play that much because the street football is over. So any touch on the ball that you can give, it's very good for their development. That's why we give them the homeworks, and that's why we believe the technical training is very important, especially when we are talking about older ages, where we are more specialized, trying to create the players more specialized in one position. So you try to make them comfortable and leave much more situations that they need to do in the game very often. So we do believe in Braga that training is very important, and I do believe it personally also. About the work I saw from TW Sports in Northern Ireland, I thought it was quite interesting, starting with the toddler soccer program, because that's something that, for example, does not exist in Portugal, and which I think it's very important, because to develop the children's motor skills at a tender age and the contact with the ball, create that passion for the game, I think it's very, very important. And that's something that I saw, and I know more or less a little bit about the program, and I thought it's very rich in terms of quality, and I think that could be great for every children at younger ages. And then as soon as they grow up, there is something that I struggle a lot also in Portugal, is players to understand the need to develop, not players, sorry, the parents to understand the need to develop their kid if they want his kid to become a football player. Why I say this? Because basically, unfortunately, in most of the clubs, I'm not saying all, obviously, but unfortunately, 80% of the clubs, because of the lack of development for the coaches or lack of vision, sometimes not lack of development, they are too focused in creating teams and not on developing the players. But they forget that your team will only be as good as your players. And so it's very important to focus in the player development. So I think that every time you have to develop your player technically, it's very, very important, and that's when I believe that the one-on-one sessions are very, very important. That's why we do it also in my club with our elite players, because we know that that will be key in their player development, because sometimes you forget, for example, simple details like the weaker foot. Sometimes we only think about that when the kid shoots at goal with the wrong foot, because the weaker foot was closer to the ball. But if we take a deep thought, are we really doing enough to develop its weaker foot just when he shoots with the other foot or something? I think we should have a dedicated program that could be more focused on the one-on-one, because your goal when you are talking about youth development should be developing the player, not the teams. The team are just a consequence of all the players together playing football. The importance of technique in one-on-one sessions. For example, I saw it in Northern Ireland. I was able to watch a couple of sessions in a couple of games, and I also worked with some kids when I was there with my colleague Luke and Tom, and it was interesting not only to see the way they're willing to learn, but also their development. And we were able to watch some games in the morning. We also watched their teams playing, and those were the players that stand out a little bit more due to their technique. And that's the importance of developing the player, teaching them how to learn, because if you don't do it at younger ages, you will never have a big impact on the work you're doing. So I think that's very, very important, the technical development and the extra training that the players could have to get more touches with the ball, to live more situations that sometimes their coaches are not worried about that in the practice session, because they are too focused on the team.